Hey folks, Andrew here from the Shenmue AM2 Podcast. I literally have goosebumps right now. I found an absolutely massive leak about Shenmue. I'm not sure when the actual leaking, I don't even know if the word leak is the right word to use here, because the information was sent on purpose. I just don't think the right information was sent to someone on purpose, and that'll make sense later on. But there has been a massive Shenmue leak that has been sitting out in the ether to the public since either September 3rd, 2003 or September 9th, 2003. We are now in the year 2024. Shenmue fans are incredibly thorough. I don't necessarily understand how this got missed, but we are talking about 21 years almost that this information has just been sitting out here and none of us have found it. How I found it is an absolutely incredible story that involves some coincidences. It involves a bunch of different things, how I actually ended up getting to it. It involves me being a Shenmue fan, obviously. It involves me trying to collect as many Shenmue magazines and guides and stuff as possible. It obviously involves the internet in some way, shape, or form. It involves Jet Grind Radio. It involves incredibly Evergrace for the PS2. One of the two first games I purchased when I bought my PS2, I bought a used copy of this and a used copy of Summoner. This also involves or addresses an interview that Yu Suzuki did with IGN Japan on November 1st, 2023, when he's talking about the possibility or potential for a Shenmue Zero. That will get addressed here, I promise. It also involves a used video game, new and used video game store called Double Jump Video Games in Vancouver, Washington, in the United States. It involves a tweet that I jokingly sent on March 3rd of 2021. It involves just the fact that YouTube autoplays videos will come into play too, helping with something. It also just randomly involves a hilarious coincidence with my cousin Brian, who I had mentioned on the podcast before. There's just a lot of, it's an incredibly interesting story how I got here, and I'm so excited to tell you and obviously share the Shenmue information with you. So, I think I got notes here. I'm thinking I got everything that I needed to, yeah, okay. I don't want to miss anything here because this is incredible. So, as I mentioned, I collect Shenmue magazines, things like that. There are plenty of resources on the internet to just find things. To this day, I still find new Shenmue magazines, like Shenmue on the cover of something. And these websites on the internet that I don't even remember the name, it's escaping me right now, but that archive magazines. There's a lot of them for archiving video game magazines, so I just browse through them. A lot of the times they'll have say we'll use EGM for example, they won't have every issue because someone needs to literally scan them into a PDF file. But they're always constantly growing because people are doing this as projects, right? You can buy a lot of things on eBay, Amazon, whatever. So I'm on the internet just randomly browsing. This was a few days ago, so I've been sitting on this information for a bit. I'm looking at I have an idea of how I want to get this out into the biggest audience at once. So anyways, I'm looking through this website, looking for Shenmue magazines, just finding random video game magazines that I don't even remember, don't even know existed, and just looking through the time frame of when Shenmue would have been relevant. I also happen to notice on this website that they have player's guides. So little Andrew, I repurchased Evergrace for myself. This is not my original copy. And I was like, I got stuck in this when I was younger and just frustrated and gave up. I was like, well, if there's a player's guide for this, maybe I can use it as a walkthrough or whatever. Well, luckily Evergrace starts with the letter E. I did not find a player's guide for Evergrace. However, I did find the player's guide for ESPN NFL Football or ESPN NFL 2K4. This is synonymous with having a bunch of Saga characters unlockable in it. There's either 10 or 12. But Ryo, this guy here, Ryo Zuki from Shenmue, he's one of them. So I'm like, okay, that's exciting. I found a player's guide for that. Jokingly, way back on March 3rd, 2021, I sent out a tweet about this when I bought this player's guide saying, is there any Shenmue lore in it? Because it's Saga, it's Virtua Fighter, it's Yu Suzuki. Someone even commented on that tweet that, like, do you really think there would be, or some sarcastic comment along those lines? Well, there wasn't. But guess what? There is a massive Shenmue leak. Again, I don't want to use the word leak because a resource was provided to Prima to make this strategy guide that has a huge spoiler in it. So I start looking through this guide. For whatever reason, when I get to the unlockable characters, I start reading through Beat from Jet Grind Radio. There's like little bios, mostly bios, for the characters. And I start reading through his and I'm like, oh, cool. It's been a while since I played Jet Grind Radio or whatever. And then I read the one for Ryo. The one for Ryo is not a bio. It's like a story arc. So I think the only way this could have possibly happened is whoever was providing the resource to the author of the guide, his name's Joe, a guy named Joe Funk. Cool last name, Funk. When they're providing him with the resource to put the guide together, I don't know if someone at Saga just didn't put the right name on like the Word document or whatever it is, but they sent him literally a Cole's Notes to use of Ryo's story arc instead of like his biography. And the other thing I don't understand about this situation is Prima made the ESPN NFL football guide in 2003 is when it was released. They already made 2 Shenmue guides by then. So they had the resource of a Ryo like biography. There's little bios in both of these about Ryo. They could have just used those. I don't understand why there's a different one here. So I'm immediately like, okay, like I'm probably the first person that is reading this that knows this means something. There's definitely people that have read that football guidebook before, but again, very small Venn diagram of the crossover, being a huge Shenmue fan and being an ESPN NFL 2K4 football fan, right? So I'm like, just panicking, like I'm sitting on a gold mine of information here. How do I verify it's real? Is my first thing, like, how do I know? Luckily, I own the player's guide for Jet Grind Radio. So I immediately just go back to the one of Beat and Combo. They're the same as the ones in here. So I'm like, all right, this is probably legit. I did also try to verify the character buyer from Axel from Streets of Rage with a manual here. The manual here does say that he likes, it says in the game too, his little bio thing, it says he's likes video games and martial arts, I think it was. Anyways, his little bio kind of had that same information in it. Yeah, it's video games and martial arts, yeah. So I'm like, okay, this Shenmue thing is real. It's real. Literally goosebumps talking about it. I can't believe this is happening. So Cole's Notes version of it is, it touches on the points of Shenmue, the major story points of Shenmue 1 and 2. A little teeny bit of Shenmue 3. And it, I guess, stops at what would either be the end of Shenmue 4 or Shenmue 5. I'm thinking probably Shenmue 4. But essentially, Ryo and Shenhua both have both of the mirrors. The situation that they're in, by what's described in the book, is that There's also, I'll touch on what might be a poor translation here with the Shenmue prophecy as well. Essentially, Ryo has the opportunity. He still, by the sounds of things, doesn't exactly know what happened with his dad in Moon Swoon with Lanti, and we're assuming Lanti's dad, I guess. But he still knows it's not good, probably. So the mirrors allow him and Shenhua the power to essentially, I don't want to say send his dad back in time, but to kind of send his dad back in time to, well, it's technically, I guess, I don't know if it's reviving his dad, but essentially his dad has another chance to go back, and I don't want to use the term rewrite history, but kind of, he has the opportunity to go back, to send his dad back to relive that. I don't understand how, based on what I read in it, if there's some sort of meeting between Ryo and Iwao in Iwao's afterlife, because I don't know how Iwao knows that he might need to change something, but Iwao was given the opportunity, by the sounds of it, to go back and redo part of his life to bring us back to the future. Also, sounds a lot like Back to the Future. That also addresses the part with Yu Suzuki with the interview with Ezra Krabe from IGN Japan, talking about the possibility or potential of a Shenmue Zero. Shenmue Zero, essentially, whether it's called Shenmue Zero or not, is going to have to happen to end this storyline. Now, with the part with Ryo having the power to, with the prophecy, to destroy himself isn't necessarily, I don't think, meaning he's going to like kill or be killed. He just literally may not exist because of, I think they call it the butterfly effect, from, again, very Back to the Future. Depending on what Iwao, his father, does, will Ryo ever exist? How much is going to change? So I think, based on what's in that book, in the guidebook, the story of Shenmue, and you may have choices. You may, as Iwao, get to do good, bad, in different middle endings. I don't know. But essentially, it may start/stop at Ryo's birth or not birth. I don't know. So yeah, that's essentially I don't know if it's a Shenmue spoiler, but it's definitely a Ryo story arc spoiler. But yeah, so I'm 99% convinced this is real, what's in the book, but it could not be. There's a channel on YouTube I watch called Double Jump Video Games. I mentioned them earlier. They are a video game store in Washington, Vancouver, Washington, in the United States. And they just film the day-to-day of running a video game store. But they also show pickups. They're what people bring in to sell them. Anyways, random autoplay on YouTube. It's playing an older video from them and a bunch of players' guides that they got in. Guess what was there? Best 99 cents US dollars I have ever spent. I can confirm it is here in the book. I will post the actual detailed thing on our social media immediately after this video is done. I'm going to set it, I think, to premiere so everyone can watch this all at once. But yeah. Also, I mentioned my random thing with my cousin Brian. Because I'm in the east coast of Canada, they're on the west coast of the United States, there's a bit of shipping involved, shipping costs. So I'm just looking to see if there's anything else they have to make it worthwhile for me shipping, just to add things to the bundle or whatever. My cousin Brian, a couple days ago, had mentioned that he was looking for these. There's a series of like novels based on NES games, and he's super into Ninja Gaiden. There's one for Ninja Gaiden. Don't they have it? So I'm like, hey, I found something. You mentioned I literally found this for him in a couple days after he had mentioned it to me. He's like, yeah, so we split the shipping. Book has obviously arrived because I have it now. As you can tell, I'm talking about things in the past. So I've been sitting on this information for a couple days now. I'm just so stoked. Still, I wasn't like, I don't know. I'm still processing it. I just can't believe this is. Shenmue fans are so thorough. 21 years, almost 21 years. We've been there. The dojo has been doing prediction videos and all this stuff. It's funny too because I'm the guy that unlocked Rio in this and like did the photographic evidence to it. I'm the guy that found it. I love it. One other thing it does, I do want to mention here too. Before I end this video or whatever, I'm gonna put out like the stuff, the actual thing from the book on our social media. It does. People have always wondered if Shenmue's going back to Japan, like the story or whatever. It's gonna have to go back to Japan because that's where Iwao is from, and it is very important that it goes. Japan is very important because right about now, time-wise, it's April Fool's Day in Japan, guys. Sorry.